Hey, what it is, people? Welcome to Firesight. I'm your guy Mo from the land of the blood, sweat, and hockey. In this channel, we bring you the latest from the trisection of science, tech, and business, plus a bit of this and that on the side. Like all good things in life, we strip our contents and topics down to its truest form to help us see what's really on the other side. With that being said, let's get started. In today's video, we're talking about a company that has smacked the daylights out of Meta. Yep, you guessed it right, TikTok. But the real question is, are we witnessing the beginning of the end of TikTok? Well, for starters, the TikTok CEO Xiao recently went under oath and testified before Congress and stated that his company is not a brazen risk as it is currently being painted. However, the American lawmakers in both parties clearly not convinced throughout the 5-hour session riddled with piercing questions at the Capitol Hill. Naturally, he was reminded that misleading Congress is a federal crime, so TikTok's chief was very, very careful in his answers. He said the app can store data from millions of American users that are completely off limits from the Chinese government. But the lawmakers weren't quite coming around to it, and the point that they see TikTok as a weapon for the Chinese CCP regime. As surprising as it may look, but this got both the political spectrums united unlike anything seen recently. And the lawmakers surely had a lot of agreements, and we seem to be having a bipartisan support for taking action on TikTok. At a very fundamental level, the question is actually not what the Congress will do, it's what the courts will do. The White House and the CIFIS, that is the Committee for Foreign Investment in the United States, may very well say that TikTok has to be banned if it's not sold to an American company. But like Donald Trump tried to do this in 2020, the courts will ultimately have to support that decision. And this right here is where the next step of this comes to fruition. Even with a divestiture, it is extremely tricky to find buyers who would be willing to pay that premium at a steep valuation of over $60 billion, and moreover, get it passed through all the intense regulatory scrutiny. Regardless, their CEO maintains of bearing a stance that they have a responsibility to protect their users, and that they will put up a firewall for the US data from unwanted foreign access. Having said that, there's more to this that meets the eye. Understand that there's a lot of young users who use it, and there's been a higher percentage of young people who voted in the last election. And given this context, it impacts Democrats more than it affects the Republicans, who are probably a lot less worried about the political blowback than the Democrats are. For example, in the Senate Republican Campaign Committee, they actually have a policy that their candidates cannot use TikTok to campaign. Meanwhile, Democrats have been utilizing this app heavily on the campaign trail. So an outright ban might be too much for some Democrats, and I would point out that the leadership in the House has actually not yet committed to bringing a ban forward. And they only said that there's a number of different proposals and the idea that they're working their way through the committee process. That's really all. But this is a double-bind problem. When you look under the hood, we have about 2/3 of young Americans saying that they don't want to see TikTok banned, and given this segment also happens to be a sizable base, this would further drag Joe Biden's approval ratings among the Democrats. So it's kind of hard to see how political considerations wouldn't at least be on their minds regardless of the decision he makes it. Besides the American political implications, they also have the politics with China. China passed a law in 2020 that essentially said they're not going to allow exports of their technology. So Biden and his camp now got to figure out, even if they do force TikTok to sell, can they really get China on board to let them sell? This right here is going to be a huge political negotiation that he has to manage on top of all the other national security conversations he's having with China, and certainly puts an enormous pressure point on the job ahead of 2024. Recently, China also made it very clear to the Wall Street Journal a few days back that it does not support this idea of a forced sale. So where do we go from here? There's also a much broader issue at hand apart from the politics, geopolitics, and national security, one that involves conversations around mental health among millions of young TikTok users amidst a backdrop of poor implementation of community guidelines. Besides, there's also conspiracy theories around some of the root causes, but we'll let you think over it. Either way, this thing is far from over. What are your thoughts? Will TikTok actually get banned? Do let us know in the comments. And destroy that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell to join our Noti gang. See you on the next one. Stay fired up.